Yes, hello, my name is Alexandra and I'll be talking to you about the retail and e-commerce threat landscape today. I hope you've all had a good day so far as well. So for the agenda, I will introduce myself. I will then go into some of the key trends that we've identified for this year. I will talk about what is the role of e-commerce today, and then I will go into a value chain. And I will then talk about some use cases that I've identified, such as skimming and dark web analysis. I will talk about some of the cybersecurity considerations, and then I will finish with those actions and closing remarks. So as I said before, my name is Alexandra Forsyth, and I'm a threat intelligence analyst with Accenture, and I work within their Accenture cyber intelligence team. I've been with them for around a year now, and I've been within the industry for threat intelligence for around 2.5 years. So I do strategic research, which means I look at open source data and I collect the findings and I deliver that to clients. And we also look at our internal databases of closed source data and feed that into the reports as well. And then prior to that, I mentioned to Dan, who just presented, it's really nice to see that more people, it didn't necessarily come from a technological background. I didn't. I studied criminology at university. It happens. You can make a way in. So I just want to make that clear. So if we look on the screen, we can see the retail and e-commerce cyber threat landscape for this year. And some of the trends, I wanted to pick out some news clippings. This is what we're seeing in open source. And some of the trends are ransomware, so double extortion, triple extortion this year, more focus on data extortion instead of encryption. I hope that you might be familiar with that. If not, I can explain it a little bit later on. And also DDoS activity for retail and e-commerce. We see DDoS a lot over the Cyber Monday and Black Friday, and I have some use cases which I'll talk about a little bit later on. And then we have the Grinch bot, which is botnet activity, and they specifically target retail and e-commerce in order to bulk purchase inventory to prevent the retailer from sales. And also we have card skimming, and I have a use case again later on which I'll talk about. It's particularly to do with MageCart malware, which is a type of malware that specifically targets the checkout process on a retailer or e-commerce's site. Again, the retailer tends to lose out, but so does the consumer as well. So what is the role of e-commerce today? This is kind of a wheel scenario. So if we look in the center, we have 3 key data points. This is what retailers want. We want to be able to offer the customer experience. We want them to feel like they have a journey when they shop online. We want to offer goods and services through digital channels, and we want to retain those customers. It's all about loyalty and it's all about trust. So 19% retail sales worldwide in 2022, and we know that that has skyrocketed already in 2023. As we move round the wheel, we can see that there's social commerce. We also have mobile commerce, which is increasing this year particularly, and we know that it will increase in 2024. And what I mean by mobile commerce is that you can buy goods and services through your mobile or your smartphone. And then, but when we go round the wheel a little bit more, we can see card skimming has increased by around 77% this year. And some of the top avenues, so if we think about retail and e-commerce, omni-channel, not a term we particularly like to use for the industry, but omni-channel means there's social media, there's websites, there's a loyalty app, there's a mobile app, there's so many different avenues that you can pick to buy your goods and services. But also from a cybersecurity perspective, it's a way in. There's more vulnerability. So you have to think about that. And the value chain, so as I mentioned, I work within the Accenture cyber intelligence team, and a value chain is something quite bespoke to us. It's such a good way, and it's one of the best parts of my job really, is I get to look at an industry and do something like a roadmap. It's a high-level overview. So if you look at the retail and e-commerce, this is their key assets, so to speak. So you have the brand marketing, and we would put that in orange, so it would be a medium. Whereas if we journey through to point of sale and customer support, we put it at a high or a very high threat level, because we know that there's spoofing, there's phishing, point of sale, there's card skimming, there is brand impersonation and brand infringement at brand marketing level. but more than less, we would put it as a medium. But again, on this slide, it's a really good way of having your threat actors there. What are they motivated by? So you've got your cyber criminals, which could be your ransomware groups, but then you've got your insider threats, which could be aiding the criminal organization, or they could just be, because they have access to the goods and services, stealing them and then selling them online for a cheaper value. So it's just a good way of looking at it and thinking, these are the threat actors, this is what they're motivated by, that financial gain, disruption, and then you have your global key threats. So are they buying pre-compromised credentials on the dark web and then using that online? Are they deploying ransomware or DDoS for maximum disruption? Thinking about those types of things, as well as web skimming, but I'll come on to that next. So one of the use cases I wanted to point out today was card skimming, something really prevalent that we see for retail and e-commerce. It's not just at a digital level, but it's also at a physical level. So say you want to go into a retail store and withdraw cash, be mindful that when you're entering your card details or your credit card into the machine, someone could have placed something on top of the chip and pin, or when you insert your card to retrieve your information, and then it turns into a digital threat. So when they've got your information, they can go online and use your stolen credit card details to bulk purchase inventory, to create multiple accounts online. It's all about thinking, physical and digital, they're combined. So when we also think about the digital element, ACI database, we monitor the dark web for discussions about, say, Mage Cart malware, which, as I mentioned, targets the checkout process through the retail and e-commerce sites. There's around 13 different groups right now that we've identified as a whole. And like I said, we monitor the dark web for those discussions. Are there any custom tools being made? And we go from there, and we're able to report that back to the clients. Because again, all of the information that we have, we want to put that forward. Sorry, just got a little bit ahead of myself. And so the next use case I wanted to point out was the state of carding report. So this is we have different teams within Accenture Cyber Intelligence. So I'm part of consulting. We have dark web, and then we also have research. This is a report that's come from the dark web team. So they've spoken to us and they've identified 3 of the most prominent carding marketplaces on the dark web. So you have Verified, Omerta, and CRD Club. These are the types of goods and services that they're offering. And this is, as I say, very recent. So these are the types of goods and services that are currently being offered. We have SMS spam, so links to phishing, could link to spreading malware. We have the one-time password bots, which is really interesting because if you buy bots on the dark web, you could launch quite targeted attacks against loyalty programs, and obviously that's really prevalent for us as shoppers. And then you have the reshipping schemes, and you have buying and selling credit cards in general. So I've spoken a lot about cybersecurity considerations. There's a lot of text on the screen. I won't read it all. But as I said, I've spoken a lot about cybersecurity in general, but AI and fraud, I put a little bit of a tidbit in here. I do know that with AI and fraud, it could be its own presentation. I can't talk about everything now. But what I can say is we know with AI, it's proliferated this year, completely skyrocketed across all industries, not just retail and e-commerce. But it is being used to monitor suspicious activity, automate those processes for retailers. But off the back of that, from a cybersecurity perspective, it could be used to enhance phishing, potentially could be used to create custom malware, but it would take a level of sophistication in order to do that. So in 2024, could we see that happen? Maybe. But right now, it does take a level of sophistication to do it. And then also deep fakes, synthetic identities as well. And DDoS, as I mentioned at the beginning, is increasing. And we had a use case over Black Friday where a retailer was targeted constantly over Black Friday and they lost around 60 million in sales. So it's just looking at that, disruption short-term, long-term financial, that will lead them into 2024. And I'm going to have to go quite quickly. I know I've got about 4 minutes left. But if you do get a chance, please read the Entering Through the Gift Shop Akamai report. It's fantastic. Talks about web attacks, around 14 billion for this year. Also talks about ransomware. So you've got your Conti, Lockbit, Black Cat groups. These are the most prolific for retail, something that we monitor all the time. So please do check that out. And as I mentioned, Mage Cart throughout as well. If you do get a chance and you want to learn a bit more about how to protect yourselves, you can use open source for that. And so this is a top-down approach for action. So this is what we would put forward to the retailers, to our clients. We would say, you can monitor your social media for adverse commentary. You can do that cyber awareness training. And I really think in 2024, this is something that we should be thinking about, not just internal training, but what can we do for the public, for us? So could we put a campaign out there and just do a type scenario thing? And then as you go down, it gets a little bit more stealthy. You would need to think about what types of teams you have. So securing your software, securing your payments, depending on if you're going through a third party, thinking about your endpoint detection. So your SIEM and your SOAR, what type of detection do you have in place, and your protocols and policies. As you go down, it's more long term. The top is really short term. This is what you can do now. And then, as I round up my closing remarks, what do we hope to see for 2024? We will see more sophisticated cyber attacks, more ransomware, definitely targeting retail, MageCart malware, and just malware in general. We'll still see it skimming, targeting retail, but thankfully, I think in 2023, what we have seen is more clients being aware of cybersecurity. They want to know more. They don't just want to know, okay, so this is what my industry looks like. What can we do? And that's what I said in the previous slide, those protocols and policies, thinking about how you can secure your endpoint. Those are the technical aspects that they want. They want to know what can they do forward, not just the strategic part, which is me. I would need to collaborate with other teams in order to help them further. So I want to say thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to give you 15 minutes. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I'm here for a little bit longer if you'd like to come and talk to me. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Have we got any questions? Yes, we have.
You mentioned you didn't have a technical or computer background before you worked in CTI. What would be your advice to people wanting to start work in CTI, someone who's now working?
So I think Dan put up some really good sources on the screen. So Udemy, Open University, and Cybrary, I think it was. I used all of those. So before I came into threat intelligence, I just did the same thing as him. I just constantly wanted to learn through open source, which is where you can find the resources. I went through so many interviews. It's really hard. I'm not going to stand here and say I got the first job. I didn't. I think I did about 15 interviews, and that's just the first round interviews. I'm not talking about the practical or having to do even further, but just remain persistent, remain curious, and just remain passionate. If you really want to do it, you can. And you can always find me on LinkedIn. If you ever want any advice or you ever need anything further, then I'm happy to help. But yeah, it's possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.